Okay, rest day, best day, happy Monday, everybody. You can already hear my voice failing in the first 5 words of the show here tonight, but we're very happy to be back Monday night with my trusty co-hosts up in Seattle, Washington, Corrine Malcolm. Corrine, rest day.
Hello, hello, hello. I was worried this wasn't going to happen because I assumed you had to be absolutely gassed because I know you welcomed every single runner in across the finish line this weekend while also pulling off really cool in-race media and post-race media coverage.
Yeah, thank you so much. We had a great time. I did survive, as did Ryan Thrower, who you see in the background of the studio here. Shout out, Ryan. There he is, folks. He may chime in with his own perspective here to carry the load with me. We definitely are working on an empty tank, but it was a great weekend, and we're proud of that we were able to pull it off. But also joining us, of course, from Mammoth Lakes, California, Tim Tollefson. Tim.
Hi. Hello. Hey. Did I get that right, Corrine?
Hey, hi, hello.
I am so impressed, Dylan, that you are here. I normally lose my voice for at least a week, so kudos and thank you for bringing us together.
Yeah, cooked, but with a full heart. That's the truth, both for the Freetrail team and also to the Daybreak team. And we have to give them massive kudos and shout outs here at the top. They're actually driving all the way back to Portland right now, too. I don't know if they're listening or watching from the road, but shout out to those guys. We all put in a huge week, those guys especially. But anyway, we're happy to be doing a fun show here tonight. It's funny, Doug Shipp was in the chat saying, this weekend was madness, and it really was sort of March Madness of a racing weekend globally. We're going to talk about several of the highlights. And before we do, though, we do have some important breaking news to cover on the program here today. You guys know that we do TrailCon. You're both coming. You're both going to be leading important panels on the first day, which is Stakeholder Day, what we're calling it. And Tim, you're going to be talking with Travis Tigert. We've covered that in a past show here on Rest Day. Corrine, you're going to be doing something as it relates to the World Championships and the Olympics, and we're be making more announcements around the details of that soon. But I'm very excited to share some details of something else that we're going to be doing on day one here on Rest Day, a Rest Day exclusive from Dilly Scoops. Ryan, if you could please key up our graphic. Breaking news, Rich Roll, the great Rich Roll, my personal idol, is coming to TrailCon to help keynote the first day. We're very, very honored and proud that Rich is willing to come and contribute his amazing voice, his credibility, his experience to our participants at TrailCon this year. He's going to be doing a fun session. We'll be sharing more of the details about what the session is going to entail later, but I wanted to get this out in the world now because we got final confirmation here today. And I was like, well, we got a news show tonight, so we got to break some news. Dilly Scoops, Rich Roll is coming to TrailCon. Tim, are you excited? I know you're a Rich Roll listener, aren't you?
I mean, I see back here, this is a signed copy with sweet little nothings scribbled in there from Rich the last time I saw him. So it'll be cool to reconnect with him. That book is called Voicing Change. He is the voice of so many different domains. I think this is an incredible opportunity for our audience of trail to come and listen to one of the great voices, honestly, like in the endurance, wellness, health space. Like it's going to be so awesome.
Yeah. So fun. Corinne, you're a podcaster.
I am a an avid podcast listener, and Rich Roll was one of those people that I was reflecting on this because of Chuckanut weekend. I ran my first 50K 10 years ago at Chuckanut. I was living in Vancouver, BC as a grad student, a very poor grad student, and I was getting into ultra running. So I was putting in lots of miles by myself on the trail, and Rich Roll was, because his podcasts are so long form and have been so long form for forever, many miles were covered thanks to Rich Roll and obviously Terry Gross from NPR. So those were my godfathers of Corrine getting into trail running.
Rich Roll and Terry Gross. I mean, those are Mount Rushmore podcasters there. So, and we do have Brendan Madigan, it looks like, in the chat. Alpenglow Sports, shout out Brendan. Of course, he was instrumental in getting this across the line for us, and I'm glad he's here watching tonight. And I know he can also relate, as Tim can, to the race director exhaustion playing injured tonight, Brendan. So I hope you're proud of me. But Anyway, that's our fun breaking news here at the top of the show. Registration is free and open to the public. So go to trailconference.com right now and register. Space is limited, especially on that first day. So, get in there while supplies last, so to speak. Trailconference.com. Big thank you to our partners at On, who also were instrumental in helping us bring this to life in 2026 as they were in 2025. All right, launching into the docket. By the way, Travis is not here to throw these links in the chat. So if people want to help out by doing that for us, we would certainly appreciate it. Trailconference.com is where you can go get your free registration. All right, I want to start our show tonight with Chianti. I think that was obviously something that occupied the brain space of the trail running universe. And I'm actually going to be relying on you guys to really fill me in a lot because I was occupied this weekend. Obviously, I have the results. I've seen the results. I know in general what happened. I think the women's race is sort of the biggest story, but in the way that we've keyed up the show, we're going to start with the men. Ryan's going to pull up the course flyover of the Strava file from Thomas Cardin, a great French athlete who was victorious this year and who is like one of these names who in France, people recognize him to be an absolute dog, like one of the greats in Europe, but who has never raced in the US. So probably a lot of people watching and listening tonight maybe have never heard of. Anyway, he won the race, 9 hours, 58 minutes, 38 seconds. I think it was about exactly the same time that Jim ran last year. So
1 minute under.
1 minute under. So
slightly better looking conditions this year. We will add. But that being said, this was also his first attempt ever at this long of a race, I believe.
Yep.
Like we think of him as like the king of like the European championships for trail and off-road running. You flagged him, I think in Troy 2 years ago as a name that people were going to miss for sure, but who had a stellar season. So to see him come out swinging here and to beat a good field under Jim's time from last year is super impressive.
Yeah. And it was pretty tight racing. So we're going to go into some of that now, but Thomas Cardin, yeah, an amazing breakout long course performance for him, as Corrine said. And he did, I think, have like a rough go at the Short Trail World Championships. I remember we were talking about him as one of the favorites going into the race there last year. So good to see him kick off his season in style there in the Italian countryside in Tuscany as we see this course fly over 72 miles, 73 miles more or less, with I think it was like 17,000 feet of climbing, somewhere in that neighborhood. So shout out to Thomas Cardin on a great victory there. We're going to look at Courtney's or Ingvild's file here in a second, but first let's just go through the deeper results for the men. I've got the top five. In second place was Andreas Reiterer, a great Italian athlete, taking that home field advantage, I think sort of unintentionally. Of course, he was supposed to be racing Tenerife this past weekend, which got rained out. We talked about that on last week's show. So Andreas, like Courtney, canceling plans at Tenerife and pivoting to Chianti. And he was also validated with a great second place performance, 10:06:16. We're going to talk about the golden tickets in a little bit, but do you guys have any comments or color on Andreas before we move on?
I guess I would like to add one thing. Knowing that he was probably trying to run the 120K at Tenerife, which is an evening start, as opposed to like a 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. start, and knowing what we know now about he and his wife expecting their second child early this summer, I think that that's really interesting because is this him prepping for like a big loop around the mountain later this year or getting more familiar with those evening starts? Tenerife was setting up athletes for maybe their first experience of racing through the night this season or in a long time. And so I thought that was curious that had been his selection, and then pivoting to something so different is in a lot of ways running at 4 a.m. is super interesting.
Yeah. Right. You can
Absolutely.
take this Strava file down. Go ahead, Tim.
And Dylan, I wanted to say you didn't really miss anything because remember, none of us could see the race happen. It's we were all in the dark, and and I say that cheekily, right? Because we had that conversation last week just about live streaming and not, and I think there is a rich conversation to be had there, as you said, and we're not going on to that now, but. It's and there are a lot of layers to that, like the economics, to put on a live stream, the cost, base, like it's very nuanced, right? But I do, one thing I would say is like UTMB, anyone that has followed their events online, just from the platform for results, it's actually fantastic to like click on the map. It's interactive. The one downside this year was that like the Chianti website had not been updated. So like you had to manually find 2026 results versus the 2025. And normally it's like a big banner headline that just like makes it like frictionless. But I think for the men's race, you know, it was, I mean, having like, is it Thomas or Toma? Like, what are we saying here?
Toma.
Toma. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you look at it, anyone should go to fantasy.freetrail.com and click on his thing. It's almost like first place, like results all the way down, but it is basically
gold medal emojis. Yeah.
5, 6 hours and below, right? So this was a big step up. But I think in general, as we get into the golden ticket thing, what I kind of took away from this is, you know, we had those late, like, admits with Toma and Courtney and a few others that had no intention of having a golden ticket, but they, you know, like made the races even more exciting. But I think ultimately, like, we end up with a really good crew that are taking tickets to states, but it was interesting to watch the dynamics play out. I think it's wild that he ran 1 minute and 10 seconds faster than Jim's course record last year. And Corrine's right. Conditions were a lot more favorable, but for a first time out at 120K, that is damn impressive.
Yeah, super, super impressive. And Jim has run pretty fast at Western States, so we'll be putting that name on our trailgating program leading up to Western States, you know, many times in the couple of months ahead of us. In third place, Vincent Bouillard. Talk about an improvement over last year. I think he was 21 minutes faster for the same third place position at Chianti. This year, that's Vincent in third. Again, we're going to talk about the golden tickets in a second, so then I'll just bang through fourth and fifth. Tobias Geiser, an Italian athlete we talked about last week, 10:21:35 in fourth. And then Baptiste Cotantiec from France, who I think is like also a really strong kind of rising talent in the French trail running ecosystem. He rounded out the top 5 in 10:49:17. Let's just do the women first, and then let's do a comprehensive golden ticket after we get all the results solidified. And the women, we do have more to talk about here because it seemed like a very exciting race. Again, I'm going to rely on you guys to fill me in a little bit more. I don't think, you know, a lot of people know what happened in those closing 15K, but, you know, my goodness, it would have been fun to watch. Ryan's going to pull up Ingvild Kaspersen's Strava here. So again, same exact thing we just saw from Toma, but just want to give flowers to Ingvild. Of course, people can toss the link in the chat. If you can, go to her Strava for us. We would super appreciate it. So just hitting the results here. First place, our champion, so back, Courtney DeWalter, 11 hours, 31 minutes, 55 seconds. I think I heard that's about an hour faster than Fiona Pascal's winning time from last year. So the top 3 women especially really pushed each other to great performances. Let's just do the top 3 and then go into the dynamics. So again, Ingvild Kaspersen, second place, 11 hours, 33 minutes, 34 seconds. Third place, Rachel Entrekin, 11 hours, 38 minutes, 13 seconds. Corrine, maybe starting with you here for the women's race, big exclamation point. Tell the people how this one played out to the extent you know.
I mean, I think it was super interesting. From talking to people on the ground, it seems like Ingvild was in control most of the day and led much of the race, with Rachel in second and Courtney in third. And then it seemed like there was some jockeying between Rachel and Ingvild. And then there's some jockeying between Rachel and Courtney, but that Ingvild led for the most part and most consistently and just put together a really phenomenal race. The curious thing, and I think people are also kind of reflecting on this, is that there was a moment late in the race where it seems like Courtney went from being like 15K to go, like 3 minutes down on Rachel to like 5 minutes up on Rachel by the finish line with, you know, only 90 seconds ahead of Ingvild. And I listened to an interview with Rachel today where she said that when she crossed the finish line, she assumed that she was in fifth. Like, she had no idea where they were in the field. And that's just like Rachel. I think, like, I love that Rachel kind of just like runs and isn't sure what's going on around her, it seems, but runs really fast. And then when they were taking like a picture of the podium, she tried to like tell Ingvild to go in the middle because she thought Ingvild had won. And they're like, no, Courtney won. And Rachel's like, wait, what happened? Like, this is insane. So I think we were all in the dark a little bit, but effectively Courtney got some sort of second wind and rapidly worked her way back through the field to ultimately come in first, but a really big flip-flop in the final 15K, which I think is super fascinating. But what a great race, super, super tight racing, similar to the men's race, between those three women seemingly all day long, which is impressive for, a 73, 74 mile race.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my first three takeaways from this was Courtney is queen. Ingvild is back at States, and then Rachel builds her case against all the haters that think she's only a 200-mile runner, right? And I think what this, like, building off what Corrine just said in the final 10, 15K, you got to remember Courtney's fresh off of a marathon cycle at like an abbreviated one kind of at the end of the 2025, where she ran 2:39 to end the season at with CIM. And, she didn't hit her Olympic trials qualifier of 2:37, but, she's got some foot speed right now. And when we were talking about the preview last week, I kind of mentioned, and maybe I didn't say it publicly, but I mentioned this to Rachel, is, you really need legs, because that final like 15K or so, if you look at it, it's a pretty steep downhill, but it's all very runnable and quick, and then a gradual climb before a really tough punch to the face, like for the finish. But if you have running legs, you can eat up. And so it seems that that's kind of how it played out for Courtney, where Ingvild did all the work and Courtney realized maybe she has more than she expected and then reeled him in. But I was messaging with Rachel afterwards, and I was like, bro, and she just responds, bruh, what'd you think? Oh my God, so hard. And then I said, don't worry, UTMB will be more your jam. And she's like, agreed. Like, we know that we thought maybe there was a slight chance that she could accept the ticket, but clearly she is focused on UTMB. And I really, give her credit for not losing sight of that, because I do think UTMB is a course that, given she's now demonstrating the ability to run, which we know she does, but the public has kind of, questioned that. I think her skill set will really apply well to that full loop around Mont Blanc.
Yeah, I mean, I think her High Lonesome run was super impressive, and I think her Mammoth run was really impressive, and I think her Cocodona run was really impressive. But I also, I would not call myself a hater, but I also wanted to see Rachel in a competitive field, at a distance that was 100 miles or less.
Yep.
And like that, I think we got a flavor of in this race, which I think is really exciting, because it's easy to talk that way about Tara Dower, who is a multi-day queen, but also is going to rip legs off at Gorge 50K in a weird, in a scary fashion in a couple weeks type of thing.
And for a little context, sorry, Dylan, for a little context, and I'm one that's not in the camp of comparing times, but given that the course was the same, conditions were different. She was an hour faster than Fiona's win last year and 2 hours faster than Abby. Now, obviously, Abby was coming off of multiple golden ticket chases, or she was in the midst of that, but that's fast. That's like hands down running an 11:30 something 120K is legit.
Well,
it's also seems like the women last year
110K,
Yeah. And it seems like last year, like the race got really spread out and there was no ability to kind of they weren't pushing each other. Like Fiona was by herself for a lot of it, right? Like no one else was hanging with her either. And so I think it's this interesting, I love that we got to see this pack dynamic. Someone in the chat said, what was really cool, Kimabo in the chat said that it was really fun watching the aid station cams, because in the 20-second clips around each arrival, you always had at least two of the lead women in frame. And that is from the clips that I saw from Julia with Adidas Terex, who was crewing Ingvild, it was then Rachel came into frame. And they would leave together type of thing. They were racing like that all day long. And to get this kind of performance on a course like this, I think you also need that. The men's race had that last year. The men's race had that this year. Oftentimes the women's race becomes a time trial. And I'm so happy that the women were able to stay pretty bunched up, at least that lead pack of three. And you did get this really incredible performance out of all three of them.
Yeah.
Also, interestingly, this is going to totally mess up Travis's relative competition index, because those three women all have super, super, super freaking high indexes. And so Chianti, I think we could say is the depth of competition maybe wasn't as great as Black Canyon, but the RCI 3 is going to be freaking insane.
Yeah. But the RCI
Chianti
10 might be
is going to be weaker for sure, right. I would say. But the RCI 3 is going to be stupid high because of those three women who were in the 3 podium spots.
All right. We'll revisit that. Hopefully on next week's show, we'll have an RCI to talk about there, because I bet they're getting the races scored now if they haven't already. I loved your takeaways though, Tim. Courtney is queen, Ingvild back at Western States, and Rachel silences the haters. It is now fully unequivocal that she can race with the best, you know, and I do love the fact that she does march to the beat of her own drum, and she does sign up for events that she actually wants to do and resists a lot of that temptation. I think declining the golden ticket is evidence of that. Let's pivot to that in a second. I just want to give a shout out to 4th place, Gemma Hillier-Moses, who finished in 12:04:30. 5th place, Lauren Puretz, 12:25:13. Ryan is going to pull up Courtney's Instagram post real quick, and then we're going to talk about the golden tickets. I just thought this was very cool, you know, like the greatest to ever do it, really giving shine to the women who pushed her all the way to the finish line here. And the photographs are fantastic of the three of them, just sort of like laughing and joking after the fact. So I'm just going to read this for the audience here. It says, honored to have spent the Chianti 120K playing on the trails with these two, the entire women's podium finishing within 7 minutes of each other, ? A sprint finish after 11 and a half hours of racing. The coolest. Thank you, Ingvild and Rachel, for being so strong and unrelenting. Better together. Here for the women's race. Corrine, how does it feel that your brand, the thing you started, Courtney's posting it to her 700,000 followers?
Oh, I mean, I still think one of the best ever photos we have is Courtney in a shirt at UTMB 2 years ago, which she clearly had to buy herself because it was in a material that we didn't have available at events yet. It was, so she had clearly ordered it, or someone had clearly ordered it for her off the website, because it's like the unisex tech tee. And so we were like, Courtney bought herself a shirt. Like we didn't plant that. Like that wasn't us like sending Courtney a shirt to rep somewhere. It's like Courtney bought the shirt and showed up to cheer at Champeloc during UTMB 2 years ago. And so, yes, it is. I love this dynamic. I love that they were able to like shoot the shit afterwards and hang out. I think that it's this very like cool group of women pushing each other. And I think that that is, I don't know, the legacy of women's racing right now is that they're competitors on the trail and friends off. And they have this ability to continue to like get the best out of each other.
Speaking of being competitors on the trail, also the rematch, Cocodona, 6 weeks. Courtney,
let's go.
Lock in. Mountain Outpost, YouTube channel. Be there for days on end. All right.
We're going to have to work with Aravaipa to do a special here for the women's race drop just for Cocodona, because we are going to be there for the women's race for sure.
For sure. And we're going to cover that in a future show for sure. Maybe several future shows. All right. Golden tickets now. On the men's side, Thomas Carden accepts, adding a very interesting dynamic. Andreas Reiterer declines because it sounds like his partner is they are expecting a child to be born sometime around the race, so he's unable to attend. And then Vincent Bouillard, ticket rolls to him, 3rd place. We got Vinny B back at Western States. Tim, Mammoth Trail Fest and Gorge Waterfalls creates champions. Could it be that Vincent, second time's a charm for him at Western States?
I think it's all but guaranteed. So for all you children out there in the inner spaces, please come sign up for Trail Fest. Come sign up for Gorge if you want a chance of winning UTMB and Western States in your career. It's guaranteed. You heard it here. You can clip that. You know, what is fascinating, I was texting Vincent afterwards 2 years ago, or last year, he was outkicked by Killian by 30 seconds. This year, he was 36 seconds back, right? It was different. He was closing down the gap. And I immediately texted Mario, my longtime coach and who is coaching Vincent now. And I said, do you not have homeboy doing strides? Like, what the heck? And, but it sounds like he had a kind of a challenging winter, but all signs are pointing towards a second go at Western States. He got his ticket. That's all he needed out of this race. He has another 2 or 3 months to prepare. So I think he's going to take those learnings and really capitalize on this second opportunity. And I can't wait to see him crack the code out there on the dusty trails of Western States. Yeah. But it was pretty wild. And okay, I'll leave it there. But I had a question for you guys also. Like, do you know what happened with Jeff? You know, because he was definitely one of our favorites going in, but I haven't read anything, but he finished outside the top 5 and I'm hoping he's all right. And it's not an indication of anything in his buildup. He has plenty of time, 3 months out from Western States. And this is so different from that event, but I was curious if you guys had any insight there.
I have no inside baseball on that one, and I oftentimes have a lot of inside baseball. So
Yeah, where was he? I think he was like 7th or 8th. So it was maybe just one of those races that wasn't perfect, but I mean, still solid, right? Like he'd get a finish,
Absolutely.
and if you can still be competitive in a top 10 of a golden ticket, UTMB race on a suboptimal day, it does show, I think Jeff McGavro is really going to be a factor at Western States. I think a lot of people are going to be looking to him as one of the favorites, as coming in as a big surprise from last year. But Thomas Carden and Vincent Bouillard, the 2 golden ticket recipients on the men's side, freaking awesome. Moving to the women, Courtney Dauwalter declines. Of course, she has made it known that she's going to be targeting Cocodona and then Hard Rock later in the summer. So squeezing Western States in would probably be tough for the course record holder. Ingvild Kaspersen accepts.
wanted it badly.
She is had the fastest Western States debut when she ran it 2 years ago, I think it was. Rachel Entrekin declines. Gemma Hillier-Moses declines. So the ticket rolls to Lauren Puretz.
And that was such a cute moment because Gemma gets handed this ticket and she's like, what do I do with it? Like, I don't want this thing. Like, what do I do? And then it gets handed to Lauren, and Lauren, every single time Lauren gets a ticket, her face is just like, I don't know, so full of joy. I just think it's a really special moment. And we know that Lauren's been ticket hunting and has been just out of the ticket a couple times now. So for her to get a ticket at Chianti, I think was really special and really cool. And I'm so excited to have her back. Again, top American at UTMB this past year, finishing 8th. Mom of 2, runs her own OBGYN practice in Colorado Springs, unsponsored. Like, excited, so excited to have her back at Western States.
Yeah, rad. So those are our golden tickets coming out of Chianti. We have one more to go. Of course, there has been a couple of people sent me messages about the fact that, of course, Western States and UTMB both now have pregnancy deferral policies. And Andreas Reiterer, of course, is expecting a child around that time too. And some people do believe that partners of people who are giving birth should be entitled to those sorts of deferrals also. So maybe that's something we could talk about in bonus miles this afternoon after the main show ends. But I think an interesting debate to have on that subject, but we'll keep the show moving in the interest of time now. Rye, if you could pull up, let's start with a men's start list at Canyons. So again, we're looking ahead about a month from now. We'll all be up in Auburn watching this great golden ticket race happen in the endurance capital of the world. So we're just going to take a quick look at the elite start list. This is published on UTMB's website. It is looking stacked. This is the first year that Canyons is a super golden ticket race. So we'll be distributing 6 tickets as we close out the golden ticket chase in 2026. People can, see these names for themselves, but anything jump out to you, Tim?
Ooh, wait a second. I don't have a big screen, so let me see if I can pull this up on my other screen.
Dan Green is still listed on both the 100K and 100-mile races.
He's doing the 100K.
I know. I think it's funny that he hasn't been able to get, that they left his name on the other one. I think is comical. I feel like Canyons was a super qualifier last year, was it not?
I thought it was a regular qualifier. I might be wrong, but
I think it was a super qual. I think Black Canyon.
I think it was.
And I think Black Canyon and Canyons were both super qualifiers last year. This year, CCC got added to that mix as an additional super qualifier.
Well, I mean, just looking at it's basically 90% American flags there, which is not surprising given that it's our sort of last chance in America to go to America's race. But Will Murray stands out to me. I think that he's one that does not need to have a 100K effort under his belt. He has his ticket. He just crushed Chuckanut, which we'll talk about. But again, we've seen this work well for people like Adam Peterman, who did need a ticket, but then he went on to win Western States just, 2 months later. So Cole Watson, the perennial ticket hunter in there. David Roach is probably the one that's going to jump out to a lot of people. Does that mean that we're going to have like a content just carousel coming our way with a bunch of things coming up? But he's been a little quiet, recently. I think he was dealing maybe with some injuries, but it's pretty wide open, honestly. I see all these where they're all capable. Some of them have had tickets in the past, but some people actually have their spot. So it's I think that'll be an interesting one, but
I'm
I don't
looking
know.
forward to seeing the Hoka guys. Hayden wants back in. Peterman wants back in.
Doji
Ray wants back in.
Oh, and don't sleep on Doji. Like
yeah, right.
that man is fast
Beast.
and is one of the top ranked runners in the race. Had an amazing UTMB last year, finishing
fourth or fifth.
Like, surprise for a lot of people, was the top Hoka finisher. Comes from a super like rural, remote China. There's a really great like little documentary video on kind of where he's from. Super fascinating story, and is incredibly fast.
Yeah.
I just hope that we don't have I mean, I'm not going to throw it out there, but the unfortunate scenario where last year we had the entire stable of Hoka men's athletes that seemed like were lined up or on the start list, and then like one by one started to fall, unfortunately. And so hopefully that we don't run that back this year.
Yeah. Also, just want to give a shout out to Cade Michael, a past Strava file of the week recipient.
Did you see his team name?
His 100K debut? No.
Oh, can you read his team name next to his name?
DM me. Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost as good as Molly Seidel's team name.
What is hers?
Your mom.
Nice. Okay. Dig it.
Super class act.
All right, let's keep the show moving. Rive, you can pull up just the quick women's start list here. Again, another stacked roster here. And Flower coming in as the top ranked athlete, doesn't need a ticket. Martina Milnarchik doesn't need a ticket. Tara Dower doesn't need a ticket. So that means a top ranked runner who does need a ticket, Riley Brady. Riley had sort of a tough 50K at the Big Alta this past weekend, but we all know Riley has what it takes to win at Western States, but needs to get back in order to have that opportunity after DNFing last year and having a rough one the year before. So those are the top ranked athletes, but any other notes from this before we move on? Corrine, you can get us started.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think there'll be more athletes that get added to this list in the interim as well. It's kind of one where we can sneak some folks in last minute who might be in that ticket chase.
I'd be curious.
Bibs. With charity bibs last year, yeah. Last year, some people spent some money to get charity bibs. I think we have found a solution to that this year. Or not unfortunately. Fortunately, I think we have found a solution to that this year, where we do recognize that getting pros into this field and getting elites into this field is of significance and is super important. So I do think that we'll likely see some more names get added to that. I'm really excited for Shea Aquilano, just out of it at a race like Black Canyon, is so consistent, is so young, is so hungry, was just outside the top 10 last year at Western States. She got into the lottery because despite being like barely old enough to drink, she had so many tickets in the lottery. She got in last year, she is next gen. She is the next gen of greats in the sport. So I would really love to see Shea have an amazing day, but who knows what will happen out there, and we'll get to be on the ground, which is really, really fun.
Yeah. So good. All right. That's the Chianti 120K and our goal.
Someone did say wouldn't be a 2026 race without Lynn Chen on the start list.
That's right. Yeah. That's a good joke. Did Lynn finish at Chianti this weekend?
I think she withdrew.
Yeah. Bummer. All right. Well,
yeah.
Keep swinging. Keep stepping up to the plate, Lynn. You're going to land it eventually, and we want you back at Western States. So maybe Canyons will be the one. And of course, unfortunately, Lynn Chen won the Canyons 100 miler last year, didn't need a ticket into Western States, and that because she had gotten it at Black Canyon, but then had to withdraw from Western States because she got such bad poison oak on the Canyons course. So hopefully she's not too traumatized from that going in to Canyons 100K this year. I just want to touch on the Chianti Marathon real quick, moving off the 120K. Rye's going to just pull up the top three in the men's race. It was pretty stacked. We're not going to spend much time on this, but I think it's at least worth noting the shorter distance events here. Francesco Pupi, so back with a capital B, 309.39. Second place, Daniel Pattis, an Italian athlete who's been ripping it on the Golden Trail World Series for a few years. Only a minute and a half back, 3:11.13. Third place, Alex Garcia Carrillo, Spanish athlete, 3:13.48. Moving over to the women quickly. Ida Amelie Robsham, I feel like, is a rising star here. She got 5th at OCC, 4th at the Short Trail World Championships, now kicking off the season with a victory at the Chianti Marathon, 3:39.10. Second place was Maria Teresa La Chica Lost, Spaniard, 3:42.36. And then third place was an anonymous athlete, which I can't really interpret. I don't know the purpose of racing anonymously and the purpose for, not disclosing people's names and identities in races. But anyway, I thought that was interesting and worth sharing. I don't know if you guys have any perspective on that stuff.
I was gonna say, I feel like they're probably not anonymous, like on a podium picture from the Chianti page, but
I have a friend that just held a race in the cool Auburn area, and the third place finisher on his podium also was anonymous. It was the first time I'd ever seen that. And now you pulling this up, it makes me think, what's going on here?
Yeah. Secrets, man.
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes I don't know if you're racing at this level, if there's like a privacy issue, but I do think that there is reasons why, as race directors or race orgs, you would want the option to be anonymous, to not have your name on a searchable data entry for various reasons, given the climate that we live in.
Yeah. All right, let's hit Chuckanut real quick. Corrine, you were there. Maybe get us started on the
on the ground.
Yeah. I've got the results here, so I'm happy to hit the names and times, unless you want to.
I actually don't know what the women ran. I know they ran fast. I know the top 10 was incredibly fast.
I've just got the top 3 here. It was Andrea Lee who won, a Canadian athlete, 4:19 in front of last year's champion, another Canadian, Jade Bellsberg, 4:22.
Sarah Paxson in third. What was she? 4:24? 4:25.
So 5 minutes separating the women.
And just ahead of Jenny Quilty.
Yeah.
Jenny Quilty and Sarah could see each other the entire final 10K, and we're just like guns a-blazing trying to get to the finish line. It was really cool. My favorite picture of the whole weekend is like the 3 of us, because I'm great friends with Sarah Paxson. She's a mom of 2, a PT in the Bellingham area. We moved in with her and her husband when we first moved to Bellingham/Vancouver 10 years ago. Like great friend. She is Heather Jackson's college roommate from Princeton. They played hockey together. That is like the origin story of Sarah Paxson. Her and Heather both have a lot of dirt on each other, I'm sure, from their college days. But the Canadians is, I think, the big story for the women's field. I think they had like 5 or 6 of them in the top 10, if not more. Like they made up most of the top 10. They ran incredibly well. Andrea was in second or third much of the day. She took over the lead, I think, after the Chin Scraper aid station, where a woman named Rosa, who is Sarah Beal's training partner in Colorado, who is a super fast, like 5K, 10K road marathoner, dropped because she tweaked her hamstring really badly and didn't want to push it. It was super muddy. We had a beautiful day for running. It was like in the high 40s, a little bit of rain, but mostly sunshine for the day. But the course had received an inch of rain every single day all week on top of snow the weekend before. And so the course was seriously sloppy. Okay. And so they ran really fast, I think, given those conditions. That they said that Lost Lake which is that long climb, Dylan, where you found Sarah Beal and gave her your jacket, that long kind of grindy climb. And then you have that traversy section and slight downhill before you get to the Chin Scraper aid station. That was like shin deep mud.
Yikes.
Like people were not staying upright. Like my friends who were really good at staying upright did not stay upright.
Two slow years in a row, really. So that, I mean, that makes these times even more impressive.
Yes, incredibly impressive. And I think that, again, Jody Adams-Moore's course record from 2013 of like 4:01, something crazy fast. I think we need to get like Rosa back and Andrea Lee back and bring Carolyn Alcorta with us and get Sarah Beal there healthy. She had a sinus infection and unfortunately dropped kind of midway through the day. We needed a posse to attack that time to make it happen, because you can't do it alone. I don't think. You have to run so fast and technically be really good. And I think that's the biggest difference, is that Andrea Lee is a super talented runner, but she is more of a road runner. So she ran very, very fast given those conditions, versus Sarah Paxson, who is more of like a multi-sport athlete and actually thought that the conditions were phenomenal. Like she loved how sloppy it was. opposite ends of the spectrum there. So you got to bring a little bit more speed to that top 5 group. And I think that you could have an all out battle for the win. Jade is consistent as always, running a phenomenal race from start to finish. Leah Mulligan ran a I don't want to say surprisingly good race. She's a name that people won't know.
She's coming at Gorge.
Ended up finishing 5th or 6th. It was her birthday.
5th, I think.
And she ran really, really well, moving up all day. She was 3rd at Leadville. She's young. She's really talented. I'm very excited. She was 5th at Gorge 100K last year, in that chase pack. And I think that she's only gotten better. So I'm really excited to keep an eye on her as well. But really just phenomenal times given how absolutely atrocious the middle 30K was.
So that makes a lot of sense, because when I was looking at the results, I thought, wow, Andrea Lee ran 9 minutes slower when she was 9th in 2024. So that context is important. Yeah,
2024 was a pretty ideal year. The course was in really great shape and the temperatures were pretty moderate. They weren't like, it was on a weirdly hot day where people ran out of water or something going up Chin Scraper. So 2024, I remember crewing that year because Devin Yanko was bummed that she finished worse than the last time she was there, but she ran significantly faster. It was like 10 years later. It was like something like between her first Chuckanut and that Chuckanut. And she's like, man, I am so bummed that I didn't finish higher, but I also ran significantly faster. So like, can't complain.
Yeah. Story of the sport at this point. Shout out to the women. Great performances there. And so remarkable that Jody Adams-Moore's time still stands, and by such a large margin here, 13 years later. Men's race, Will Murray takes the dub. I think this is his 3rd year in a row racing Chuckanut and finally gets it right here. 333.
Eighth the last 2 years.
8th the last 2 years. So finally get the dub now that he's a Bellingham local. Shout out to Will Murray. 2nd place, Noah Dussault from Seattle. I think he's a Cowgill dude. And then another guy, Dylan Flewelling, finished 3rd place. They were only separated by a minute. So Will Murray, Noah Dussault, Dylan Flewelling is the men's podium there.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting battle in which Will Murray, I feel like I was talking to him after the race and I was like, man, you just kept getting new tributes and you kept breaking them. Like the Ponderosa Pirates, that group of boys and gals, I think they must be out of the flag. Are they the Flagstaff? They're like the new Flagstaff group. It's like Preston Cates and that crew. Like they just kept giving him a new tribute for him to destroy. There were all these boys hobbling around at the finish line that had dropped, and Will came in and they all like one at a time went over and like shook his hand. It was very cute, but they had been slowly broken over the course of the day. Their leader, I think is probably Eric Hamill, who finished just off the podium, ran really, really solid, but finished 5th, I believe. But yeah, the Ponderosa Pirates, I think that's our new like Flagstaff area boy band to keep an eye on. They seem very, very talented, but Will looked calm, so calm. I saw him for the last time before he crossed the finish line on his way down into the final aid station, and he had this huge smile plastered across his face. Like it looked like he was just having the best time in the whole world. And then I guess interestingly at that point, Noah was actually in 3rd, about a minute back from 2nd, and he had to work hard to catch him on the interurban and make that gap happen and stick. And then Ryan Sullivan actually ran. I don't think he had a great day for him. I think he was a little bit bummed with his performance, but he finished 4th, and he also looked phenomenal and was only, I think, like 2 minutes back from the podium when we saw him coming into the aid station, and he was pushing all the way through the line. So it was very, very cool racing to watch. But Will seemed to be out by himself, having broken several boys earlier in the race.
The boy breaker. Tim, any comments from you on this Chuckanut?
I think it just, adds to the campaign and the case for Will to have his day at Western States, is building up nicely. Pretty comfortable win by all measures here. We just said he's on the 100K at Canyons, and I think he's just, with the guidance and the learnings that he's had over the last 18 months in trail and having figured out kind of his cardiac stuff, I think he's going to be a dangerous one come States at the end of June.
I think Will's got the it factor. Like if you talk to him, there's something about him where you're like, there's some kind of power inside this person. It's difficult to describe. I was actually just saying to Ryan, because I was looking at his Strava, I was like, dude went out for an 1.5 hour long bike ride the day after Chuckanut. Like, come on, bro.
That's a short ride for him.
I know.
Nice little flush.
Well, I also told him, I asked him, so I was trying to just like walk Sarah Paxton over for her to do her post-race interview. And then they were like, oh, sit down. You can interview Will. You're talking to him anyway. So I did Will's post-race interview for Mountain Outpost. And one of the things I asked him was that, you know, I had suspected that maybe this was just a training stimulus for him because he's obviously got Western States in June. But then I had heard, no, like he really wanted to win this race. And so there was, you know, an A race factor to it. So I asked him about that. And he said, you know, it might have been a B race from a training perspective, like doesn't feel maybe like perfect, but it was an A race emotionally. Like he needed to like treat it like an A race this week and do a little bit of a taper and really feel fresh and fit because emotionally and psychologically the race meant a lot to him. And so that was a very, very interesting piece of the puzzle for him. Like getting it right and putting himself in a position to win was very, very important, despite it seeming like kind of a training blip on his build up to Western States.
Yeah.
So again, just super impressed with his like composure and his professionalism and the way he races. And I cannot wait to see him at Western States.
Me too. I think he's coached by John Fitzgerald, right?
He is. Yes. Yep. He's a Fitzy. He's a John Fitzgerald boy. John's wife ran Big Alta. So saw him at the finish line. Yeah. They were saying, so John coaches Kim, Will Barkin's wife, who we can talk about. And they were staying with Will and Kim, and Will was like, I don't know if our place is baby proof. Like, what are we going to do with this child? Yeah. It was very, very cute, but yeah, I knew that John was going to be out there. All right. Well, shout out to our Chuckanut podium finishers. Great racing up there in the Pacific Northwest at a historic race directed by the great Chrissy Mail. Shout out Chrissy. I got to run that one last year. And kudos to Chrissy for live streaming. You know, we've talked about live streaming, the unit economics around that. And for a small independent race like hers, it's a labor of love and really a gift to the community. She's not making any money on that. She's losing money by providing that. So kudos. So like inside baseball, but public information. They, akin to how there was a tourism tax that was helping to subsidize and fund JFK for the last apparently like 30 years. Chuckanut applied and was given a grant by the tourism board or by like the county. And they actually, that's what they put they put funding from that grant directly towards the live broadcast. So they said like they couldn't have done it, I think, without that grant, and that they were really excited to finally bring that to life. I know the deal got closed, or like the agreement got closed kind of late because I think they were waiting on this grant money to come through, but that's what they invested it in. And I think that is a very cool thing for an independent race org to do. Again, they don't have multiple distances unless you count the kids race, which is very cool. But they have 600 runners at a 50K in a place that is hard to stream. There's trees, so Starlinks don't work very well. There's trees, so you can't fly drones. You're very limited in that capacity. And they also ran a fully remote commentary team for the first time ever. And I think that actually went very well. They were able to use Zoom links and pull in past champions like Ellie, like Adam Mary were able to join. And I think Brett Hornig and Corinne Chavoy held down the rest of the commentary with these other individuals hopping in. But everyone was remote for it, and they pulled it off pretty flawlessly. Brad, I got to go check some of that stuff out. I'm glad you guys brought that up. And we should say too, Corrine was there. You took the start line. I ran a 10K. It was super exciting. I ended my day there. And make sure you subscribe to Trail Society. We won't go into the details here. We don't want to spoil it, but Corrine couldn't make it to the finish, unfortunately. And I look forward to hearing the deeper story. But of course, we're always rooting for Corrine Malcolm whenever she steps to a start line. All right, let's move to the Big Alta. Of course, I've already talked about this race for about 1,000 hours over the course of the last 7 days. So of course, people can go back and check out the coverage that we did around the event. I just had a couple of sort of things I wanted to tick through here, and you guys feel free to throw any comments or questions my direction. First and foremost, the women's racing this weekend, guys, was so freaking sick. And I think it's sort of a theme throughout the week. You know, if we look at what happened over there at Chianti too, which we already
covered, but like the 50K race was sort of similar to the Chianti, where there was lead changes and back and forths and, you know, people charging from behind. The same thing happened in the 100K the following day. Like Robin and Sylvie Abel were trading the lead back and forth. And then all of a sudden Anna Loudon charges from behind, passes Sylvie Abel to take second place. So just dramatic and very close racing. In the 100K in almost 10 hours of racing, the margin on the podium was only 5.5 minutes. So a really, really fun kickoff to the 100K distance. And then the 28K felt like a major coming out party to me between Taylor Peavy, who won the race, Rena Schwartz, who's like a Nordic skier turned trail runner, and then Alice Goodall, who's like a track star turned trail runner. All three of them live and train in Boulder. All three of them coached by David Roche, and all three of them finished on the podium in the 28K as you know, runners in the very infancy of what could be spectacular careers. So the women's racing this weekend was just
all going to Gorge.
Yes. So that was another thing that I wrote down here. So in the 3 races that we did, of course, there's 18 podium finishers between men and women. 7 of those 18 podium finishers are also coming to Gorge. So I just want to give those individuals a shout out. David Norris, Drew Holman, Ryan Montgomery, Aaron Moyer, Taylor Peavy, Rena Schwartz, Alice Goodall, all coming to Gorge Waterfalls. And we're looking forward to welcoming them again. And as Tim knows, you know, independent races, it's hard to attract a lot of these top level pros to race outside of a golden ticket or a golden trail or a by UTMB event. So we're just really grateful to have that great participation. Oh, and look at our great producer, Ryan, in the background, throwing up some heaters from these photos are from James Hulk, who was part of our content team this. Oh, look at the Rye guy. Look at the smile. Look at the sunrise in Pirates Cove. So good.
But like I said, if you want a promising career in trail and ultra, come to one of our races. We didn't give Lauren Puretz her shout out, but she was second at TrailFest 50K 2 years ago. She's coming back this year, golden ticket recipient. Jenny Quilty, also a TrailFest alum, you know, so go to your local independent race, support them, and then launch your career into the stratosphere.
There you go. Like I said, I will make it my mission in life to blow you up if you come to our races. That includes TrailFest, by the way. Okay. So if you need any additional incentive. Also, Robin Lesh is the real deal, man. She's coached by Robbie Britton, won the 50K at Tarawera, won the 100K in like a really strong and like, I don't know, just gritty way. She evidently, what happened at the aid station at mile 36 or so, she like spent 5-7 minutes in the aid station massaging her leg. She was like kind of cramping. Her adductor was hurting or something. And she said to her crew, all right, don't leave. I might come back. Left in second place after troubleshooting there. Charges forward to victory after like contemplating quitting. At least there's, you know, you could interpret it that way. So we're looking at her 100K flyover here. 9:45 for the first year.
Seems stout.
It's freaking fast. Like, I think that's a really fast time. Of course, we'll see what happens next year, but.
No, she's legit. Like, I mean, that women's podium is legit in general. It's 3 incredibly fast women. Yeah. So I don't think those are soft times by any means. You guys had a hot day for sure. People looked like they were hurting out there in a big way. But also I had an athlete message me in there. She was like, I shouldn't have been worried about the 8-mile climb up to Tam. What I needed to be worried about was the final half marathon.
Yes.
So
sting in the tail. And that's actually where we are looking at right now. The climb up to Loma Alta, and then the climb up Big Rock Ridge, a very hard last half marathon, but an incredibly beautiful last half marathon. And Tim, you will appreciate this. 216 finishers in the inaugural year, 80% finishing rate in the inaugural 100K.
Heck yes. And especially on a hot day, that's very challenging. You know, you could expect to see it even higher, but kudos to you, Jeremy, the whole race team, because and all the volunteers that make that happen, because on a hot blistery day like that, there's no guarantee. So it's really the support system that gets people across the finish line. So kudos, you guys. Yeah.
I think I had 4 of those kind of back of the pack finishers in the mix too. People who like it was their first 100K, or they were really nervous about the distance, you know, training hadn't been perfect, you know, that were in that 15, 16 hour group for sure. And they got a full value day out of it. And while they had big, long, hard days, no one was upset about it. Like they all had a phenomenal time.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of like, if you think about just events, first year events, there's two camps of people. Some people love a first year event because of the chaos that will inevitably or could potentially ensue. And they enjoy those like horror stories and like, you know, rocking chair moments that they can tell their kids about. And then there's others that like, you know, there are people that want a professional, high grade, world-class experience because they paid money for this. And like, you don't exactly know what you get, but with Daybreak Racing and you guys, you are pros. And so delivering on that is amazing. So kudos again. But I just think that also what this show, I'm just going to put it out there. First year event, 80% finishing rate, over 200 finishers, 100K. That means that in 2027, you're almost guaranteed to be a Western States qualifier, would be my guess.
Yep.
And so that's not always an easy thing to do either. So kudos again to the team.
Yeah. So if you want to come around the Big Alta 100K, you're going to need to be fast on the keyboard when we open registration, I think. I mean, it has the potential to be kind of an instant classic race. We're so thrilled with how it went. We haven't done like a deep retrospective, obviously, at this point. We're still all trying to recover. But the team, as you said, Tim, like a first year inaugural distance, there's a lot of question marks, and we got through it about as cleanly as we possibly could. And a big shout out to Daybreak again, who really does lead on all the operational execution of the event. I wanted to give a couple of important shout outs here that we didn't cover during race week. Number one, my guy, Bill Shum. People will know this story, but he manages all the volunteers at Hard Rock, including where I met him at the Chapman aid station. A lot of people know this story. I tried to quit. He wouldn't let me. I slept at the aid station for 3 hours, eventually walked out of there, got a finish, and he and I have become really good friends. And he comes to our races to volunteer out of the goodness of his heart. He's just a great guy. Finishes dead last in the 50K. Ryan and Travis had to meet him at the bottom of Queenstone with a half mile to go to say, dude, get on your horse. You're finishing this freaking thing. Got him in with like 90 seconds to spare. He wouldn't have made it without Ryan and Travis.
Yeah, there's a message in the chat to that effect saying, stoked to help all the baddie 100K runners. Only had one drop at the final aid station. The fairy magic was high.
Yeah. So good. So anyway, Bill Shum got it done. In the 100K, we had 26 runners in golden hour, which was pretty cool, including the final finisher, whose name, I'll pull it up, Caitlin something, finished with 23 seconds to spare. So it was an electric nail biter moment also in golden hour. Fantastic. And then I wanted to give a shout out to some of the people who helped us on the volunteer front. Inside Trail, another kind of a regional race directing company, like came out and helped us, which was fantastic. East Peak, Polyus Dragunis' brand, they managed the East Peak aid station at the top of Mount Tam, which was very appropriate, and they crushed it. The vibes were incredible up there. Solomon, of course, not only sponsoring the race, but they managed an aid station, never second to the Cowgills, the Freetrail aid crew. It was just a heartwarming weekend, and we're thrilled we got through it. So the Big Alta is officially a wrap. Looking forward to 2027. Are we ready to move to Strava file of the week, or you guys got anything else?
I think that's, well, we wanted to give Will a shout out, I think, as well, because that was pretty cool.
Thank you. Okay, I'll set this up, and I want to toss it to you, Corrine. So Will Barkin, who is the story that people might know. He came and ran the race, finished in 15 hours, 14 minutes. I met him on the trail going over Loma Alta 3-4 weeks ago, introduced himself to me. Corrine coaches him. He's got a really interesting and cool story. Corrine, why don't you share it with the audience?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know Will, you might have seen him as the first finisher to miss the cutoff at Western States 2 years ago, that I think had us all on our feet, all crying as he sprinted his way around the track. But I've known Will for years and years and years now. Mario Ferroli actually connected us. And when I first met him, I'd never coached an athlete with some sort of particularly like a vision issue. And he's got a degenerative vision, visual condition. So he mostly, I think, has peripheral vision. And when I first met him, he said, Corrine, I already have a mom. You don't need to be worried about my safety. You need to be worried about my performance. And I was like, that's all I need to know. And we've been working like that ever since. So I was really excited for him to be out there and get to run the Big Alta, to make it through the day smoothly. I'll get to talk to him about it, I think, early next week. But he is just a phenomenal individual and athlete, is a, Bay Area born and raised human. His parents still live in the outer Sunset. And I think I was telling you that I got to pace him for a self-supported Marin Ultra Challenge 100 mile that got canceled early in the pandemic in 2020. And I guided him for 30 miles of it. And it was super, super foggy. It was in the night. And you can't see anything when it's foggy like that, and your headlamp's on. And we got to the top of this trail, and he's like, "Oh, this is our left." And I was like, "Will, like, I'm guiding you. Like, what do you mean this is our left?" He's like, "Oh yeah, we go left here." And so I just will forever remember that experience of trying to get Will around this 100-mile effort. And he did it successfully, but just that will forever live with me, that I was like, I don't really need to help this guy. Like, he knows exactly where he's going.
Yeah. What a cool guy.
But
awesome.
Yeah.
So many great stories from the weekend. Appreciate everybody who came out and raced with us. I'm just catching up on the chat. It looks like a lot of Big Alta runners are in the chat commenting, the Big Rock quad busting finish, Deb Hammerlin, who unfortunately missed the cutoff. A lot of great energy here. We appreciate everybody. Appreciate all the volunteers. Appreciate Daybreak, Solomon, etc. Really awesome weekend. All right, let's close with Strava file of the week, shall we? Our live producer, Ryan Throwers, queuing it up. Again, I haven't been able to see a ton of what's been going on this weekend. We didn't cover the Chianti 75K, but I've been following this dude for a couple of years now. And it's one of those situations where I just get a feeling about somebody of it's a real deal. Polish athlete. A lot of people will be familiar with Andrzej Witek, but for American audiences, I don't think he's ever raced in our part of the world. So I want to give him a shout out. I actually don't know him personally, have never met him, but have been a follower and admirer of his. Last year, he was 3rd place at OCC, and then followed that up with 7th place at the Long Trail World Championship, kicking off his season 75K victory at Chianti. So just wanted to give him a shout out here. My guess is maybe he's going to be pointing towards CCC just based on this now, and moving up to the Long Trail at the World Championships. Very strong Polish athlete. The last thing I wanted to say on him is, while we were at the World Championships, right? I think you were in the car with me. We were driving up to Confranc, and we saw this dude doing strides on the side of the road. We were like, oh my God, that guy looks very good. Very athletic, very strong, very fast. We drove past. I was like, oh, it's that Andre guy. Got to put him on my fantasy team. And he lived up to the hype there at the World Championships with the top 10, which was pretty savage. You guys have anything you want to share about Andre or any other call outs as we close the show?
I don't think so.
No, I'm just glad you didn't pull my Strava file for a Strava of the week and just mocked me, because I have not done anything recently, but this is much more entertaining.
I got to look, man. I got to look. Well,
no, I'm Strava dark, bro.
Are you? So am I. We should compare notes. I wish I could give only you access to view my Strava, Tim, and vice versa.
Give me your password. I'm sure it's the same thing for everything. The Freetrail, Vault, Strava, the mortgage on the house.
Yeah. Awesome. Andre Witek, your Strava file of the week. And also, there was kind of an upset on the women's side in the 75K too. It was Elisa Kristensdottir, I think is her name, Icelandic athlete, who beat Judith Wider by 8 minutes in the 75K.
That's impressive.
Also, potentially Strava file of the week worthy. I couldn't find her on Strava though. Maybe I was
Oh no! Someone said the biggest thing from the week was that Debo won fantasy.
Oh yes.
No.
Yeah. Yes. The 28K. I won fantasy. I mean, it really
collusion.
It was because Matt Daniels keyed me up on this guy Aries Reading, who won the 28K. Young Boulder kid. He said, yeah, he's the fittest guy there. So anyway, I had inside information. So a little bit of an asterisk, but I'll take it. Important. All right. Well, great show, guys. Appreciate it. We're going to stick around and do quick bonus miles to Freetrail Pro members. I will drop a link in Slack here momentarily. So come chill out with us. Maybe we can talk about some of that deferral stuff with Andreas Reiter, anything else that comes up. But super great show, amazing weekend. I'm punching out for a couple of days here, taking a little vacay to rest up before Gorge Waterfalls in a couple of weeks. So yeah, going to take a minute to recharge. But thanks to everybody who watched out throughout the weekend and is here also tonight. Make sure you smash the subscribe button before you go. If you missed some of our Big Alta coverage, still time to go back and check some of that stuff out. Big thank you to our team, of course, including Ride Guy producing in studio here. Of course, Tim and Corrine, who carried the show here tonight. Appreciate you guys. All right, that does it, folks. For Corrine Malcolm, Tim Tollefson, I'm Debo. Freetrail Pro members, see you in a few minutes on bonus miles.
Happy birthday, Dylan.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Peace out.